Very good morning to all of you. I hope that you are fine at home, enjoying yourself, and you are eagerly waiting for the class. And here I am. So let us continue with the work that we are doing. In the last class, before we get on with some more things about Sigmund Freud and psychoanalytical criticism, let us just try to take a review what we have seen in the last class. In the last class, we have seen certain things about Sigmund Freud, how Sigmund Freud has been considered as one of the most controversial thinkers of the last century, the 20th century, and where he was born, in which conditions he was born, how he was assimilated into German society, and how he kept on working on the mysteriousness of the human mind. We have learned that Sigmund Freud has been the dominating impact on the 20th century civilization in the domain of psychology, in the domain of psychoanalysis. And in this context, before we get on with psychoanalytical criticism, it is important to just once again take a review of certain things about Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud happens to be the most controversial thinkers of the last century, the 20th century. And he has written more than 500 articles on various aspects of human mind, the human psyche, the psychology, the layers, the conscious layer, subconscious layer, the superconscious layer. And he has a very celebrated theories regarding the human personality in terms of the id, ego, and superego, which we'll be highlighting in this particular class. He was born in Germany in 1865, from 1865 to 1939. So this is the lifespan of Sigmund Freud. And he died in London in 1939. That was the year which had witnessed the emergence of the Second World War. And just from Germany to London, when he was in Germany, he has tremendously contributed to this unexplored domain of human mind, unexplored domain of the human understanding, the human psychology. And he has given some of the celebrated concepts, which we will be highlighting today. Now, Sigmund Freud, we already cleared certain things about Sigmund Freud, the analytical theory. Sigmund Freud, the most important figure. We have seen the relevance of Sigmund Freud. It is quite fashionable among the critics, among the theoreticians, among the philosophers, among the psychologists to attack Sigmund Freud, because all of these people, all of these thinkers, they consider Sigmund Freud as outdated, unscientific, and they affirm that most of the views of Sigmund Freud are related to sexuality. So these are the charges that have been applied to Sigmund Freud, and all major theories, during the times of Sigmund Freud and even after the times of Sigmund Freud, there have been different kinds of theories that have been proposed by psychologists pertaining to the human mind, the human psyche. But all these theories that we have at our disposal today, they cannot go ahead without referring to Sigmund Freud. He was nominated for literature in 1900, and he has said the seminal book called Interpretation of Dreams that published in 1900. And regarding the book Interpretation of Dreams, he says that he was fortunate enough to have penned down this seminal work in which he has explored the interpretation of dreams. And he says that dreams really have a meaning, and that a scientific procedure for interpreting them is possible. So this is the contention of Sigmund Freud that makes it clear that dreams can be interpreted by applying a systematic and a scientific procedure. Sigmund Freud, he was born in 1860. These are the things we already seen in the last class. I'm just taking a review. 1865 he was born. in Germany, in Vienna, where he grew up and lived up until 1938. In 1938, he moved to London, where in the year later, that is 1939, he died. So Vienna is a very important place in Germany that is known for opportunity and optimism. He was assimilated into German society, and he was the staunch supporter of humanistic values, of political liberalism, and affirmed universal values of rationality and human freedom. About the time when he was 15, the liberal atmosphere evaporated, anti-Semitism became prevalent, and Freud's hopes for assimilation shattered and replaced by disappointment and bitterness. So this is one of the reasons that made him flee to London. So all his notions of optimism, all his notions of betterness, all his notions of equality, they have been shattered, and he started feeling disappointed. He had a sense of bitterness, which made him leave Germany and go to London. He was graduated from University of Vienna Medical School, and at the age of 15, he got married, and he realized that the private practice is the key to one's survival. It is the private practice that would help. This is what he felt. The private practice would help him support himself and his family. And I have already told you that he has published more than 500 research papers in various reputed journals, international journals, on the aspect of human mind, the human psyche, the human consciousness, the human subconsciousness. And these papers have been received quite well by the researchers, by the teachers, by the students, and all those people who were interested in understanding this dark aspect of human mind. The outbreak of Second World War forced him to flee to London, where he died a year later in 1939. So these are the things which we have seen in the last class. Now, today we are going to see that often Sigmund Freud has been charged by so many contentions. One of the contentions is that Sigmund Freud theory is very complex. It is not whatever the theory that he proposed. No, superficially, looking at the surface, having a first-hand reading, one cannot make a sense of it. One cannot understand what are the propositions that have been made there by Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud's theory is often considered as complex because he kept modifying it as he went along. Normally what happens when a researcher works on a selected topic, applying all the research paraphernalia, applies all the research pursuits, he has a system. And once he comes out with certain conclusions, then he publishes it. But in case of Sigmund Freud, we find all the theories of Sigmund Freud as complex because he kept modifying it as he went along. Means again and again he used to visit his own theories. He used to make modifications. He used to make replacement. He used to make, he used to give some additional references that make his work or his theories complex to understand. He never presented a comprehensive summary of his final views. There is a discipline in science, particularly pursuing a research. When a researcher pursues a research on a given topic, he applies all the scientific procedure. After that, when he completes his research work, before he publishes it to the larger spectrum of the people, he or she prepares a summary, the comprehensive summary. In case of Sigmund Freud, whatever the theories that he has proposed in his lifespan, he has never presented a comprehensive summary of his final views that he has expressed in all those theories. Whether it was a theory of consciousness, whether it was a theory of interpretation of dreams, whether it was a theory of aphasia, whether it is the theory of hypnotism, whether it was the theory of hypnosis, whether it was a theory of psychoanalytical therapy, psychoanalysis, he has never presented a comprehensive summary of his final views. And this is one of the things that make his theories complex. Complex means difficult to understand. It is full of so many complication things. And psychology itself, because when you speak about something that itself is mysterious, becomes more mysterious when we are to articulate it. So in case of Sigmund Freud, he kept on modifying his thoughts, he kept on modifying his views, he kept on replacing his views, he kept on adding references to the theories, as well as he never presented a comprehensive summary of his final views. Another thing that makes his theory complex, that his theory is more comprehensive than, but since it has number of aspects. One. It is not the things. In case of Sigmund Freud, one has so many 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So such kind of hierarchy that we find in Sigmund Freud's work. For example, he gives us, now there are different theories he has proposed. For some time, concentrate on this. A theory of motivation. We all know the word motivation. We often use the word motivation. We have a very slight understanding about the word motivation. But just look at, Sigmund Freud has proposed a theory, a comprehensive theory of motivation, a theory of thinking. When you say thinking, we know, I'm thinking. You know, somebody asks you what you're doing. You say, I'm thinking. But what exactly you are doing? What exactly do you do? We cannot define it. We cannot get it into the words. But he had proposed a theory of thinking which includes dreaming as well. In one of the contexts, I told you that the human mind is never at rest. When we are awakened, we are conscious. But when you go to sleep, the mind doesn't go to sleep. It functions. It pursues dreams. We pursue the dreams. So he has proposed the theory of thinking, the theory of personality development. This is a catchword in today's context, personality development. In short, we say it is PD. But when you look at this from psychological point of view, it talks about psychosexual theory, a theory of mental structure. It is very difficult to define mind. Psychology defines mind as an abstract system of the functioning of the brain. But it is abstract, it is there but cannot be seen. As we say that body is there. We are surviving, we are living, we are breathing, we are inhaling, we are exhaling. All the systems are operative inside the body. But all the systems that function in the human body, all the systems perform, or systems, I can say, work in the human body because of the abstract system. The biological organ is there called brain. But inside the brain, there is a mechanism. And that mechanism that allows or helps or enables the brain to function is called the mind. So the theory of mental structure, the human personality, according to Sigmund Freud, is made up of 3 dimensions. One, id, ego, and superego. Id is something that is there to the left, to the right side of the hemisphere of the human brain is the superego, and in between the id and the superego, there is the ego that goes on fluctuating. As we move on further, we are going to understand these 3 concepts of id, ego, and superego. So the theory of psychoanalogy and symptom formation and theory of psychotherapy. So these are a couple of theories that prove to be very complex, because he again and again visited those theories, again and again he rearranged his ideas, again and again he has replaced his ideas, again and again he has added some new reviews, added some new references that make his work very comprehensive, very difficult to understand. So there are two fundamental hypotheses. When we look at Sigmund Freud, there are two hypotheses. What is a hypothesis? How will you define hypothesis? When we were doing stylistics or dealing with linguistics last year, I had told you that linguistics is a systematic study of language. And I explained to you what is meant by a systematic study. A systematic study of a matter is that which comprises of a system, a discipline of scientific parameters. It includes observation, clean observation, analysis. Before that, it is building hypothesis, analysis, experimentation, and drawing conclusions. So these are certain basic fundamental scientific procedure that are applied in studying the matter in a system that we call a systematic or a scientific study. So hypothesis is nothing but something that is assumed prior the investigation. Let me give an example. Who proposed the theory of gravitational force? Obviously, you know, it was Isaac Newton who proposed the theory of gravitational force. How did he propose the theory of gravitational force? He had gone through a particular experience that helped him think about that relationship, and he proposed the theory of gravitational force after putting his 28 years of study. And what was the incident that took place in his life? One fine afternoon, after having a stomach full of lunch, he was having a nice time, he was feeling dizzy, he was having a time under the shade of tree. He was just, because scientists are observant, he was just observing all the beautiful things of nature. And he was just looking at the branches, the trees, the leaves. And it was a tree that bore the fruits. When he was looking at or observing the tree, the fruit fell down. When he looked at the fruit falling down, he was surprised, no? Because of his being inquisitive, because of his being the inquisitive mind, he had a question to himself. Why did this particular fruit come down? Why not it go up? Then he proposed, or he built a hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but the assumption or a presumption that you do prior to investigation. मराठीमध्ये सांगायचं झालं तर त्याला म्हणतात गृहीतके. एखाद्या विषयावर संशोधन करण्यापूर्वी ज्या गोष्टी आपण काय करतो, अज्युम करतो, प्रिझ्युम करतो, गृहीत धरतो, त्याला म्हणतो गृहीतके. So he proposed, or he built the hypothesis that there exists, म्हणजे आपलं संशोधन सुरू करण्या अगोदर त्यांनी असं गृहीत धरलं की काहीतरी आहे, असं काहीतरी आहे निसर्गामध्ये की ज्याचा संबंध त्या झाडाशी आहे, त्या फळाशी आहे, जमिनीशी आहे. ते काय आहे, he didn't know by then. He was supposed to investigate. He was supposed to apply his procedure. He was supposed to apply his research. He didn't know when he proposed that hypothesis. He didn't know what was that. So he believed that there is something that is related to the tree, related to the fruit, related to the crust of earth. This is what we call hypothesis. So in understanding Sigmund Freud's theories, there are two celebrated fundamental hypotheses. First, the hypothesis of principle of psychic determinism. What does it assume? This principle of psychic determinism affirms nothing in nature happens by chance. Concentrate. Nothing in nature happens by chance. Nothing in the mind happens by chance. This is the first hypothesis that Sigmund Freud started his research work with. Number one, nothing in nature happens by chance, and nothing in human mind happens by chance. Means there are certain factors, there are certain conditions, there are certain climates that help nature to have the happenings. Likewise, there are some factors, there are some dimensions, there are some attributes, there are some reasons that allow, that help the mind to have the happenings in the mind. So this is the first principle of this psychic determinism. The second one, this unconscious. The very word is very complex. Unconscious. Is it possible for a human being to be unconscious? No. But why does he speak about unconscious? We say we are conscious. We are keeping our eyes open. We are keeping your ears open. We are breathing. We are inhaling oxygen. We are exhaling carbon dioxide. We are moving. Our brain is functioning. The brain is giving the orders to all the organs. We are carrying out the work. So the second hypothesis of Sigmund Freud is the unconscious. The conscious rationality. The conscious. सतर्कता ज्याला आपण मराठीमध्ये म्हणतो सतर्क अवस्था सजग अवस्था सायकोलॉजीच्या भाषेमध्ये काय म्हणतात त्याला सजग अवस्था सजग म्हणजे आपण असतो आपण सजग असतो मनानं मेंदूनं ऑर्गननं एखादी गोष्ट एखादी टाचणी जर आपल्याला टोचली तर लगेच आपण काय करतो रिॲक्ट करतो बिकॉज इट इज द स्टेट ऑफ कॉन्शियस माइंड एखाद्याने तोंडावर असं चापण मारला तर लगेच आपण गाल लाल होतं डोळ्यातलं पाणी येतं सजग अवस्था एखाद्याने मोठ्यानं बोललं रागानं बोललं शिव्या दिलं डोळ्यातलं पाणी येतं सजग अवस्था रडू येतं हसू येतं उड्या मारतो these are all things that we do they all indicate our conscious mind the conscious rationality जो विवेक असतो the conscious rationality is the exception अपवाद is the exception rather than the rule in the psychic process evidence for this is inferred psychopathology these are all medical terms psychopathology no pathology is one of the significant branches of medical science you know pathology in which the liquid of the human body is analyzed examined pathology so psycho means concerning with the human mind and the mind and its pathology when a patient is about to undergo a surgery the doctor prescribes certain tests to be done he goes to the pathology lab right he gets his blood tested he gets his sugar tested likewise it is about human body psychopathology means it is the examination of all those liquid you can say formation of the human mind the symptom formation parapraxis the slips of the tongue of the pen dreams free association hypnosis I hope you might have seen certain programs on hypnotism hypnotism is a technique what is the difference between hypnotism and hypnosis hypnotism is a technique psychoanalytical technique of controlling the other's mind taking control over the other mind through a technique psychoanalytical technique is called hypnotism You can hypnotize yourself. It is called self-hypnotism. Let me give an example. You can program your mind, your own mind. You can hypnotize your own mind and see the results. If you think, no, if you give command to the mind is a master. Mind doesn't like to receive commands from other organs. Mind always gives commands to all other organs. It is dominating. So once you give a command to the mind and start thinking one thought that I'm feeling good, in spite of the pain. If you are having a pain, suppose if you're really having a pain, bodily pain, and if you keep that thought in lingering in your mind continuously, that I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm fine. To your surprise, you would definitely start feeling fine after some time. You are keeping good health, no ailments, no diseases, but you want to fall sick. Some people are there who like to fall sick for this or the other reason. And this experiment can help them. What that person has to do, he always thinks, अरे काहीतरी होतंय मला, काहीतरी होतंय, काय होत नसतंय. काहीतरी काही पण होत नसतं, परंतु ती मानसिकता असते, मनामध्ये तो विचार सारखा घोळत असतो, काहीतरी झालंय, काहीतरी झालंय, काहीतरी झालं. अशा व्यक्तीला काही ना काही होतच. कशामुळे? माइंड प्रोग्रामिंग. So hypnotism is taking control over the other's mind by applying a technique. And hypnosis is a psychoanalytical therapy. एक चिकित्सा पद्धत आहे ती. सायको अनालिसिस मध्ये पेशंट्स मध्ये असणाऱ्या न्यूरोलॉजिकल जे डिसऑर्डर्स आहेत, मेंटल डिसऑर्डर जे आहेत, ते डिसऑर्डर्स एका विशिष्ट चिकित्सा प्रणालीच्या माध्यमातून ते बरे करता येतात. आणि त्या चिकित्सा पद्धतीला म्हणायचं हिप्नॉसिस. सो हिप्नॉटिझम इज डिफरंट, hypnosis is different. Hypnosis and hypnotism, they have one thing in common, that is the human mind. Barabar? And hypnotism has the essence of what? Repetition. One thing that you start repeating, your mind gets programmed. अजून सोप्या भाषेत सांगतो मी. आपण लहान असताना आपली टीचर सांगायची, उद्या शाळेला येताना हे तोंड पाठ करून यायचं, ही कविता तोंड पाठ करून यायची. आपण काय करायचो? घरी यायचो, जेवण बिवण करायचो, बसायचो आणि आपण 10, 15, 20, 25 वेळा ती कविता वाचायचो आपण. करेक्ट? एखादी गोष्ट सातत्याने निरंतर केली तर ते माइंड प्रोग्राम करतं. इट प्रोग्राम्स द माइंड. So in hypnotism and hypnosis, one thing that is common is the human mind. But hypnotism is a technique, whereas hypnosis is the therapy. And these two, you can say, hypotheses interlock. Sigmund Freud talks about the drives. They're called psychological drives. And his propositions, they are linked with biology. What did he hope? He hoped to link up his theories with biological knowledge. Means whatever the existing biological knowledge is there, that he wanted to correlate his views. We are still not able to do that. He has stated in last century, but even today the thing has not taken place. Freud wanted that psychology, psychoanalysis has to be or have to be linked with the biological knowledge. Freud uses the term instinct, no? Pravrutti, instinct in this regard. But the term is misleading in English. If you open up the dictionary and try to make a meaning of it, it gives something other, what Freud has stated. So what is the drive? Psychological drive. Drive is a tension or excitation looking for release. अशी एक गोष्ट जे मानवाच्या मनामध्ये एखाद्या गोष्टीला बघितल्यानंतर, एखादा ऑब्जेक्ट कडे बघितल्यानंतर त्या संदर्भामध्ये आपल्या मनातला जो भाव आहे त्याच्या संदर्भातला तो रिलीज करण्याची इच्छा म्हणजे ड्राईव्ह. इट इज अ टेन्शन और एक्साइटेशन लुकिंग फॉर रिलीज. नंबर वन त्याच्यामध्ये काय नीड. मोटर ऍक्टिव्हिटी, we do certain things, we do carry certain action. Motor means dynamic activity, physical activities. And gratification, ananda, pleasure. So behind this drive there is a need, ka, garaz. To fulfill that need, action is undertaken. And action is undertaken for what? For self gratification. This is what he says about psychological drive. What is drive? Drive is a tension or excitation looking for release. It is not suppressed. The human mind wants to release it. The human mind wants to unlock it. And it has three dimensions. The psychological drive has three dimensions. One, need. कशा तरी कुठल्या तरी गोष्टीची गरज मनाला वाटते. Make it more clear, let me give an example. We are now maybe 25, 26, 30, not 30, 25, 26, 27 years of age. Up till now, we have had so many, remembrances. We have stored in our mind. But somebody, somewhere, has a corner in the mind. We remember, we go back, we recall, we recollect. Why? Gratification. भूतकाळामध्ये किंवा चांगल्या आपल्या आतापर्यंतच्या आयुष्यामध्ये चांगल्या घटना ज्या घडलेल्या आहेत त्या सर्व घटना आपण मनाच्या कोपऱ्यामध्ये आपण साठवून ठेवलेला आहे. आणि कधी पाहिजे तेव्हा आपण तो फोल्डर आपण ओपन करू शकतो आणि तो उघडू शकतो आणि तो आठवू शकतो आणि आनंद मिळवू शकतो. इज नथिंग बट अ ड्राईव्ह. तुमच्या लक्षात येते? गरज काय? गरज आहे. अशी एक गोष्ट, असा एक व्यक्ती की जो आयुष्यामध्ये माझ्या आयुष्यामध्ये आला होता, त्याच्याबरोबर मी काही दिवस, काही महिने, काही वर्ष घालवली. तो आता माझ्याबरोबर नाही आहे, तो कुठेतरी आहे, बरोबर. पण तो माझ्या मनामध्ये बसलेला आहे कुठेतरी कोपऱ्यामध्ये आणि त्याला मी कधीही बाहेर काढत नाही. कधी मला गरज वाटते तेव्हा मी त्याला बाहेर काढतो. All the time I do not do it. When I feel, when I need it, I open the folder. Opening the folder is motor activity. आपण आठवतो की नाही? आठवण्याची क्रिया आपण करतो की नाही? So remembering is an act, is a motor act. Why do we do it? For gratification, एक आनंद, pleasure. So in this, drives can be defined as a tension or excitation looking for release. It has three dimensions: the need, motor activity, and gratification. So when I need, I open up the folder. That is, I remember. I start remembering. And when I remember, when I get lost in the dream, in the memory of the person, how do I feel? I feel pleasured. I feel gratified. I feel happy. I feel in a good mood. I feel regenerated. I feel alive. So that itself is nothing but a drive, a psychological drive. So a psychological drive is a tension or excitation looking for release, which attribute of need, motor activity, and gratification. Now he talks about psychic energy and cathexis. These are the complex words, technical words, psychological terms, psychic energy and catharsis, cathesics. Freud postulates a psychic energy analogous to physical energy. This is just for your reference. Huh? It is just for your reference. Certain terms are to be understood. When we are to begin our understanding about psychoanalytical criticism, these terms are going to be there. And there, the things should not be complex to us. That's why I'm explaining certain basic concepts, certain basic terms of Sigmund Freud. Two forms of drive energy. ऊर्जा ज्याला आपण म्हणतो, हा जो ड्राईव्ह आहे त्याला निर्माण करणारी जी ऊर्जा असते त्या ऊर्जेला काय म्हणतो? लिबिडो. लिबिडो, इट इज कन्सर्न विथ सेक्शुअल, इरोटिक. लिबिडो प्रत्येकाच्या म्हणजे पर्सनॅलिटीमध्ये ह्या गोष्टी किंवा ह्या ड्राईव्ह असतात, ह्या एनर्जी असतात, त्याला म्हणतो लिबिडो. लिबिडो, इट इज कन्सर्न विथ sexual and or erotic behavior. Thanatos energy, he calls it thanatos, that is concerned with aggression, destruction, annihilation. So Freud assumes these are always fused. आपल्या मानवी देहामध्ये ह्या सर्व ड्राईव्हचं वसती असते, but not necessarily in the same amount. एकाच अमाऊंट मध्ये सर्वांमध्ये नसतं. अमाऊंट कमी जास्त होऊ शकतं. काही लोक जास्त अग्रेसिव्ह असतात, काही लोक जास्त डिस्ट्रक्टिव्ह असतात, काही जास्त सेक्शुअल असतात, काही जास्त इरोटिक असतात, काही बिलकुल सेक्शुअल नसतात, काही बिलकुल इरोटिक नसतात, काही बिलकुल प्रोग्रेसिव्ह नसतात, बिलकुल अग्रेसिव्ह नसतात. सो द अमाउंट can be varying, but these drives are going to be there. So for the time being, we'll stop here and we'll continue in the next class, that is on Monday. I'll be sending you the message prior to the engagement. I hope that you must be enjoying the sessions and maybe enjoying the new things about psychology, psychoanalysis, the terms, and I hope after the presentation, I'll be sharing these things to you through Google Classroom. You access to these PPTs, and that will help you understand things better in a more comprehensive way.